Among the myriad descriptions one might use to characterize Robert Birgeneau, one might start with the fact that he is a highly cited Canadian-born physicist, internationally recognized for his teaching and research on the fundamental properties of materials. The first in his family to complete high school, Bob went on to earn a BSc in mathematics on a needs-based scholarship from his hometown university in Toronto, then a PhD in physics from Yale. By age 24, in 1966, he became an instructor at Yale School of Engineering and Applied Science and completed a postdoctoral fellowship 2 years later at Oxford. Not wanting to lock himself in a definite career too early in life, Bob left academia to work as a technical staff member at Bell Laboratories, where he rose to the position of research head of scattering and low-energy physics. But in 1975, academia called Rob back, and he began what would become a 25-year career at MIT as a professor of physics, eventually serving as department head and finally as dean of science during the late 1980s and 1990s. As dean, Bob initiated a pioneering study on the status of women faculty members in science at MIT, establishing his reputation as a champion for diversity, equity, and other social justice issues, which over time has become to include LGBT rights, affordable education, and the plight of undocumented students. At MIT, he also met with success in fundraising and facilitating partnerships with government and industry, important skill sets that would help prepare him for bigger challenges ahead. For many academics, leading the School of Science at one of the world's premier research institutions would be the capstone of an outstanding career. But Bob's work ethic and penchant for taking on difficult challenges led him back to Toronto, where he was appointed the 14th president of his hometown university in 2000. For the next 4 years, he served at the helm of Canada's largest university before stepping down to take on another compelling challenge as Chancellor of the University of California at Berkeley. Consistently ranked among the world's top public universities, Berkeley was struggling through one of the most turbulent periods in its 136-year history when Bob arrived in 2004. Hard economic times in California had led to precipitous cuts in funding for state universities and an equally dramatic rise in tuition fees to make up the shortfall. As Berkeley's new chancellor, Bob grappled with a significant increase in campus activism as he implemented some difficult decisions to reduce costs. But through focused attention, he was successful in finding new sources of money in the face of reduced public funding, developing new programs to maintain access for low-income and international students, and working to maintain Berkeley's world-class reputation for research excellence. In 2013, Bob retired as chancellor, and among the many honors bestowed upon him for a lifetime devoted to higher education, he received a special Founders Award from the American Academy of Arts and Sciences in 2006 in recognition of his commitment to intellectual inquiry, leadership, and active engagement. In 2008, he received the Carnegie Corporation's Academic Leadership Award as a champion of excellence and equity in education. And in 2009, the Senior N Foundation awarded Bob its Pathfinders to Peace Prize in recognition for his commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and to the integration of public service as an essential component of the academic experience. As Acting Vice Chancellor, and in the name of the Senate, it gives me the great pleasure to ask you, Mr. Chancellor, to confer the degree, Honor of Laws, Honoris Causa, upon Robert Birgeneau.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as Acting Chancellor, I admit to you to the degree of Doctor Laws, Honoris Causa. Congratulations, Dr. Birgeneau. On behalf of all assembled here, I should now like to invite our newest alumnus Dr. Robert Birgeneau to address Convocation.
Boy, everyone looks really serious out there. I hope I lighten you up a little bit. It's not that solemn an occasion. President Chakma, members of the board, faculty, staff, parents, family, friends, and graduates, thank you for including me in today's joyous celebration. I cannot tell you how honored I am to be here at this great university. Thank you so much. So now, it's my responsibility to give you a stirring speech that's going to send you off into life. So I thought about this for a while, and then one of the first things I did is I thought back to my own graduation at the University of Toronto when Claude Bissell was one of the great presidents in Canadian university history, was president. And my wife, who was my fiancée at the time, was there also. And frankly, neither she nor I can remember who the speaker was, nor a single word that he or she said. Then I realized this is actually totally liberating, because you're not going to remember a single word I say either. So it actually just doesn't matter what I say. In fact, I could sit down now, but I won't. I do, on a serious note, following what Amit just said, want to also recognize two people that I became very close to while I was president of the University of Toronto, who also were exemplary leaders at Western and who passed away recently, namely President George Connell, President Emeritus George Connell, and Chancellor Joe Rotman. Both were great Canadians with great families who served both Western and Canada well, and all of us who knew them missed them terribly. Fellow graduates, you all have come from a diverse set of backgrounds, some privileged and some quite underprivileged. For the latter, you may have grown up in poverty. You may be a member of a persecuted minority. You may be the first in your family to graduate from college. However, none of you can ever again consider themselves to be underprivileged, because now you are all privileged because you have the great fortune of not only being a university graduate, but not just of any university, but of the University of Western Ontario. Just to illustrate how privileged you are, the world's population is now 7,325,000,000,000 people. However, only 260,000 of these are Western graduates. This means that there are 7,324,740,000 people who do not have the privilege of being graduates of the University of Western Ontario, and I can tell you they are all very envious of you. I want to say to the graduates, most especially the undergraduates, that, and I really hate to tell you this, and I told my own kids when they graduated from college the same thing, which is, now that you're university graduates, you can no longer blame your parents for anything that's wrong in your life. You are now full adults, and you are totally responsible for your own lives. This includes your cell phone, your credit cards, your automobile insurance, etc. So parents up there, you are now totally liberated. One way that we are especially privileged is that we are graduates of university led by one of North America's finest academic leaders, Amit Chakma. I first met Amit shortly after I came from MIT to the University of Toronto as president. I immediately recognized what an extraordinary person Amit was, and indeed tried unsuccessfully to recruit Amit to my leadership team at the University of Toronto. Amit, thank you for everything that you have done and continue to do for the rest of us. But what about you, my fellow graduates? Of course, every convocation speaker has to give some paternalistic or maternalistic advice, so I'm about to do it, to warn you. Actually, my advice for you is pretty simple, and it's actually, I don't think anyone ever said this to me, but it's a simple principle that's guided my own life, or part of it. The first thing to do is figure out what you're actually really good at. You know, Einstein once said that if he was born in Australia as an Aboriginal person, he would have been a total failure because he could never master throwing a boomerang. So it's a good thing Einstein instead decided to invent relativity rather than how a boomerang actually works. So it's very important, and this is a serious statement, to figure out what you're really good at. The second thing is figure out what you really enjoy. If you're lucky, there will be an overlap between what you're really good at and what you really enjoy, and that should define the profession or range of professions that you pursue. Don't underestimate yourself. Be ambitious, but most importantly, act with integrity. Also, do not be afraid to fail along the way. One or two failures will only strengthen you, and indeed, if you're always successful, and I know people who brag about that they're always successful, all that will mean is that you lack the courage to try and do things that are really hard. I urge you, my fellow graduates, not to lose your youthful idealism. Now that you are all members of the privileged class, remember that there are many Canadians who are much less privileged, and they need your help. The situation for Indigenous citizens of Canada, Inuit, First Nations, and Métis, continues to be a national embarrassment. These communities need your support. It happens, my own father's family were members of the Métis Nation. Birgeneau is a Métis name. And as you heard when I came along, literally no one in my family had ever finished high school. Not college, but high school. Because at age 15 and a half, Métis people lived in poverty, and we had to go to work. It was required. And indeed, my older brother and sister at that time had gone to work at 15 and a half, and I was expected to. However, I was the lucky one, and some very good people came along and interceded in my life, which meant that instead of dropping out of high school, like everyone before me, I finished high school, went on to the University of Toronto, and ultimately, as you heard, came back as their president and as the chancellor of UC Berkeley. Without the intercession of those good people, I would not be standing here as your convocation speaker. Graduates, you can make the same difference in someone's life. You only have to care. So enough preaching. Graduates, congratulations on all that you've accomplished to date. I hope you will remember the excellent education that you received here at Western, and that will serve you and society well in the years to come. May your lives be richly rewarding and fulfilling, and may you enjoy much happiness. Congratulations, and good luck, class of 2015.